So version 3 of 4.0 just came out with Lycone changes, a slight nerf to the free-to-play option and buffs to signatures. From that alone, there's already a wave of doom posting. Whatever. But this coupled with how Elation has been poorly received by quite a lot of people, it's honestly kind of insane to me. Now, I understand if your concern is that this will be a Remembrance 2.0 situation. So I want to go over the math and logic behind the Lycones and see whether or not it's actually justified. And if it isn't, see what the real culprit is. Now, before we start the video, I just want to say it will be super obvious in the comments for those who didn't watch the video, because there is irrefutable evidence going the opposite direction. So please don't self-report. Now, to start, we first need to understand why people are so scared of Elation. And thus, we need to look at where this trauma is coming from. And the answer is pretty obvious. It's because of Remembrance. Now, basically, it boiled down to this. There weren't any good free-to-play options, so if you didn't pull the new signature Lycones, there was going to be a crazy damage difference, aka pay to win. And that's correct. Well, only half correct. Let me ask you a question. What's the average damage increase going from a free-to-play option to a signature Lycone? 10, 20, 30%? Well, it's roughly 21%, with that being the average of all of our DPSs combined. So if something's less than this value, we can say that they're more free-to-play friendly, and if it's more, then they're less free-to-play friendly. With this logic in mind, bringing it back to Remembrance, we should expect a very high jump compared to everyone else, signifying that it is a pay-to-win path. So let's look at the data. On the screen will be a list I made from data collected from Pridewind for the damage increase going from free-to-play to signatures. Analyzing the chart, what conclusions can we make from it? Well, if you said that earlier DPSs are free-to-play friendly, well, then you're wrong. From a surface level standpoint, it's technically correct, but when you actually look at it, it's not. Let's look at the 3.x DPSs, Anaxa, Archer, and Saber. It's kinda strange that they don't get a massive damage increase, especially being a newer unit. Moving to Casters and Evernight, we can see that there is a massive differential, meaning that the initial hypothesis of Remembrance and thus Elation will be a pay-to-win path. But again, it's only correct on the surface level, and that's because Aglaia, and Aglaia alone, disproves this notion. She sits at a mediocre 21% damage increase using a 3-star Lycone. That's crazy, by the way. So, what gives? To answer that, we just need to explain the different amps and why that's the case. Those in green are usually attack scalers, with some exceptions like Firefly. Now, this can be explained by the hurdle Lycones, such as the Hunt or Destruction ones, being really dang strong. The people who get yellow increases are either A, unique damage dealers such as Break or Dot, or B, they just have super strong Lycones, such as Acheron or Fei Xiao. So Aglaia pulling that off with a 3-star Lycone is pretty crazy. And finally, we have those in red. Now, can you see the common factor? Every single one of them, besides Finon, are HP scalers. So no, it's not because they're Remembrance that they get such a massive damage increase. It's because they're HP scalers. And it just so happened that Hoya wanted to make Remembrance 99% HP scalers. Now, this doesn't change the fact that there still aren't really free-to-play options for our Remembrance HP scalers. But is this the case for Elation? Well, before we tackle that, we need to answer. Why does being an HP scaler cause such a massive difference? Fei Xiao's Lycone gives better stats than Castrus's, yet it's so much weaker in AMP. Now, you may say, well, it's because the free-to-play options suck. We're comparing a stat stick like Bailu's to Herta's Hunt Lycone, which is actually good. Now this is a pretty solid argument, but sadly it gets thrown out the window when we look at Maide and Jingliu, who got the perfect event Lycones for them, yet there's still a massive difference than their signature. So again, what gives? Well, base HP. And it's literally because of that alone that any HP scalers and future ones will be forever pay to win or more costly. And the reason why this is the case is so stupid and simple. It's because we have barely any HP buffs in the game, with only Hyacin providing some. Meanwhile, we're swimming in attack buffs. As such, any HP they get is omega valuable because they're not getting any more. Using this logic, we can deduce that the damage increase via light cones will be due to A, the passive, and B, the base stats. With this final piece of information, we can finally move on to Elation and see if the light cones are pay to win and if Hoyo buffed the signatures to make sure that free-to-plays and low spinners get shafted. Now, there's two things we need to look at to determine if the Elation path is free-to-play friendly or not. Firstly, how good are the free-to-play options, and secondly, how OP are the signature light cones. Now, we're going to start with the signature light cones because it's a lot more interesting. Starting with Sparxie's, version 3 gave her 12 more crit damage. Yeah, 12 more. Totaling it up, we get 48 crit damage, 20% AoE Elation, aka damage bonus, 20% defense shred, and 3 more SP for the team, which we can't really calculate. Now, let's compare that to Everknight's, who also has a similar stat line. Now, Everknight's light cone gives her 30% HP, 20% AoE defense shred, 30% damage bonus, and also energy, which can't be calculated. Comparing the two, our Everknight's OP light cone gives the same defense shred, 10 more damage bonus, and when converting the health into crit damage, 2 more crit damage. We can say that the energy and SP even out as unique stats, so overall it's pretty even. And that's not even mentioning the prior section. Remember how I stated that base stats is very crucial and half the equation of what causes that damage increase? Well, Elation units don't even use base stats such as attack or HP because the Elation damage formula doesn't even use it. So realistically for Elation units, their light cones lose so much value because a big reason on why you should pull the light cones is the base stats. This also means that 3 or 4 star Elation options with lower base stats don't lose that much compared to other paths because again, Elation doesn't care about it. So yeah, people had it the other way around the entire time because I guess nobody bothered to check or look into it. Nobody in the right mind ever considered the fact that these 5-star Elation light cones are actually getting shafted because of Elation's design and damage formula. So we've now answered one of the questions. Are Elation 5-star light cones OP or pay to win? With the answer being no. Just like any other signature light cone, they're valuable to their own wielder. Also, here's Guang's. She now gives herself energy at the start of the wave, which I think is pretty cool, but stat-wise, it's actually just similar to Sunday's and Sparkle's. Yeah. Moving on though, we still have the other half of our question. Are the free-to-play light cones usable at least, or are there even free-to-play options? Looking at the 3-star options, they currently cover 2 archetypes. The first is Universal with 40 crit damage, while the second is for characters whose main damage source will be from their Elation skill, aka if Genuine got follow damage bonus. The next is the free-to-play MOC light cone, which is a hybrid light cone which provides self buffs and amps. Now, this vulnerability was nerfed by 2% in version 3, which sucks a little, but oh well. As you can see though, it currently covers a pretty decent basis for the fact that we only have 3 light cones. Now, taking a look at Remembrance, we had an Aglaia light cone, useless one, support, and another support in the Herta light cone. As you can see, it's no wonder that when the HP Remembrance gang arrived, it was brutal. Low base stat options and none that gave any useful stats. As for Elation, 3 bases are already covered, which is really nice. Now we'll just have to wait for the Herta one and see how it goes. If they make it DPS oriented, the path is saved. No Remembrance 2.0, and it's quite literally as simple as that. Okay, but enough with the logic. What about the actual numbers or evidence behind all my app? So let's take a look at that. The methodology is pretty simple. We just total up the stat distributions of light cones across the different rarities and paths, then convert it into equivalent crit damage values. Once we look at the actual numerical gap between free-to-play and premium options, it will give us a concrete answer on how much value is being really locked away behind light cones. On the screen are the results. As to not stay here forever, I'm just going to summarize the conclusions. 3-star light cones generally sit around 70 crit value, MOC options in the 80s, Battle Pass at exactly 106, Herta 5-star options around 120, and signatures near around 150 crit value. Light cones with defense shred usually hover closer to 100 plus the defense shred itself. For the most part, every single path follows this general rule, which honestly isn't surprising as the system is generally well balanced. However, we can see that there are outliers. In the Remembrance section, the Herda and MOC light cone fall greatly behind as their support light cones. And with half of Remembrance being DPSs, this was obviously a problem. Elation, on the other hand, is also an outlier. They just have weak light cones in general. This, coupled with the fact that base stats matter far less, Elation ends up being more free-to-play friendly than most of the other paths, which is kind of ironic and the complete opposite of the current narrative. This of course includes Sparxie's light cone, which even after the buffs, is still below average compared to the other signature options. Now, because all the current Elation light cones are relatively weak, this makes the Battle Pass light cone, which is literally just average, really dang strong. Not to mention, it gives universal amps, so any Elation unit in the foreseeable future can probably use it. So, to wrap up this section, we can now answer the title of the video. Are Elation light cones pay to win? Not really, they're all just kinda mid. As such, with all these different factors combined, we can say that Elation, in terms of light cones, is very free to play friendly, as the actual impact of these light cones in comparison to the other paths is a lot less. As for future units though, it'll just depend on the character, and if they pull an Akron or Hyson locking their kit inside of a light cone, but we'll just have to see. And yeah, that should explain the current situation with the Elation light cones. To conclude, I just want to give my thoughts about the new Elation path. If you're cautious because of Remembrance, that's completely fair. Hoyo definitely messed up there. Too many HP scalers, a lack of free-to-play options, and not fully utilizing memo sprites for other playstyles like Break or DLT. However, for those falling into this second camp, saying things like, Hoyo only adds new paths so old light cones become useless, that line of thinking would kill any game long term. It's extremely short-sighted, ignores how innovation actually works. Sure, you can use an old light cone, but the trade-off is that there'd never be any innovation. Break wouldn't even exist because we didn't have any break light cones, and we still don't have any free-to-play options. HP scalers also wouldn't exist because we didn't have any HP ones. Entire archetypes would just die because it's not the traditional attack and crit stuff. So no, at least in terms of light cones, this isn't Remembrance 2.0. And until the numbers prove otherwise, this critique is just based on assumptions and not hard facts. Now, I hope this video has been informational. If you have your own thoughts or opinions, just leave it in the comments. That said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to watch a video explaining how Elation works, here you go. But besides that, I hope to see y'all next time, and peace.